You've had Trump answering questions about the Epstein files by dismissing them as a Democrat problem and claiming that he's barely even in them, which of course we know that that's not at all true. He's all over them in various capacities, as are others in his administration. But what ended up kind of getting the most attention in this situation was when Trump snapped at CNN's Kaitlin Collins as she tried to ask about justice for survivors.
Well, what would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead, CNN.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten justice?
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile on your face.
I'm asking you about survivors.
You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth. And you're a very dishonest organization. And they should be ashamed of you.
Trump ridiculing Collins, and then the room just moved on to discuss healthcare. And so among all the different reactions, you had a ton of outrage that none of the other journalists in the room really said anything to defend her. So there, I will say, since it happened, CNN's defended her, and other reporters have spoken out online saying things like, a reporter asked President Trump a question he doesn't like, and instead of answering, he attacks her character. No moments of contrition for those harmed by Epstein. Instead, he has called the files a hoax. Also, Collins's CNN colleague, Jake Tapper, noted that this subject, it really causes Trump to lash out because that quiet piggy remark he made to a female reporter before, it was also in response to an Epstein question. And then Kaitlin herself, she actually kind of responded just by sharing a video showing her face while Trump railed against her, and you see her just keeping her cool and remaining professional. Also with this, I think it is worth noting that, his little tirade, it came after Collins had asked other questions about Epstein, which Trump did answer, but it was clear that he wanted to move on to a new subject.
On the Epstein files, you talked about Democrats who were in there. Elon Musk was also in there, and so was your Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and correspondence that he had with him. Did you read those new files that were published by the Department of Justice?
I didn't. I have a lot of things I'm doing, a lot of things I'm doing. I don't know. You mentioned two names. I'm sure they're fine. I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else. Now that nothing came out about me, other than there was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
But of course, with the way that Trump and all his people, they were fighting against the Epstein files, how they're releasing and messing things up now, how they're speaking, and also how Trump is responding when Epstein questions come up, it's making it so that people aren't going to be able to move on. Though also, the Epstein files, while it's kind of like a pain in his side, for pretty much anyone else, it would be career-ending. And actually, what we're seeing in places where dorms have not been completely destroyed are some other politicians, it's actually messing up their careers. Over in the UK, Peter Mandelson just resigned from the Labour Party and House of Lords over revelations in the Epstein files, claiming that he doesn't want to cause further embarrassment for his party. Because some of the communication showed that Mandelson gave Epstein sensitive financial and political information, with some of that happening in 2009 after Epstein became a convicted sex offender. He also allegedly sent Epstein a confidential document intended for the prime minister and accepted tens of thousands of dollars in payments from Epstein. And then there was also a photo that appears to be of Mandelson depicting him in underwear alongside a redacted woman or girl. And so now he's actually under investigation in the UK for misconduct while in public office. Right? And so you have a lot of people looking at that going, how novel of a concept that a politician resign and face real political consequences for being implicated in this massive scandal. Though also, going back to the United States, I will say some people are feeling some pressure here. For example, you had Melinda French Gates discussing the mentions of her ex-husband, Bill Gates, and saying,
whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Well,
and I am so happy to be away from all the muck. No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein. I remember being those ages those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages.
Now, Gates, he's denied any wrongdoing, but politicians on both sides of the aisle, they responded to this interview by kind of echoing that call, saying, yes, Bill Gates and others, they need to face questioning, and you actually have Nancy Mace seeking to subpoena him. But, whether or not Epstein's associates, those who participated in or knew of his crimes or were just connected to him in some way, will actually answer these questions, that remains to be seen, even though I will say this topic doesn't appear to be going anywhere, and justice also seems so far out of reach.